Good evening, everyone. Time is 5 o'clock. It's November 29th, 2022. It's time for our monthly meeting of the Board of Directors for Glasgow Electric Plant Board. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order. First item is the approval of the agenda. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Got a motion by Witcher and a second by Stevens. Is there any questions on this or anything? Okay. If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, say no. Okay. Motion passes. Item 2 is the approval of the minutes of the previous business meeting. Hopefully everybody's looked over them a little bit. Did anybody see any discrepancies or anything on those? I didn't see anything. So, if not, then this time I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting as presented.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion by Stevens.
Second that motion.
Second by Jones. All right. No discussion. Then all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes. Number 3 is we'll consider the approval of the Edge router upgrade.
Yeah, so this item is part of the $2.5 million first phase that we approved for the fiber to the home build in our September 27th meeting. The total is $143,621.61 that's requested for 3 routers, and at this time I'm going to turn it over to Daniel Mooney to explain further what these are for and what it's about.
Sure. Roughly, if you look back 5 years ago, we used around 3 gigs of traffic a night. And the second sheet that you have on here that was sent out shows that we're around 18 gigabits per second of bandwidth that's used. So that number is ever increasing, and right now it's increasing exponentially. We have around 20 gigs of capacity, so we're almost even hitting the margin and the limits of where we are at this time.
And this is prior to, of course, the
right.
build. This is just our.
We think fiber is going to push that extremely quite a bit and push it more. Now, what we're talking to certain vendors to get more links in here. We have 2 10 gig links, and we want 100 gig links through different competitive vendors and stuff like that. But to terminate it, we've got to have one central device for them to come into. So that's what we're getting here. The Arista device is the one that we've chosen. There are 3 different main companies. You've heard of Cisco, everybody's heard of Cisco, and Juniper's another one that does. And we've actually got quotes on here for those 2. But if you'll see, there's a huge difference in the prices. And that's on a sheet that looks kind of like that. So my notes up top. Reason being, Cisco is proud of their company. And they've been around forever. In the past, we would have always had to go with Cisco because the places where we get our links from basically mandated it. Whenever you called for help or assistance, and they would say, if you were terminated in anything else, they would basically fuss at you and say, we can't support that. So things have changed. After a little while, Juniper came into the play, and they started supporting that, and now and they were about the price as Arista was at first, but now they've gotten a share of the market, and they like their name too. And Arista's kind of the new player in this, but they really have a lot of penetration into the smaller markets like we are. Maybe not the big AT&Ts and the massive, huge places that are buying the Ciscos and stuff. So they're looking to get business and getting foothold in munis and in all kinds of places, and everything that we can see is every bit is capable of functioning as the other devices. So that's the ones that we've decided that would be best to go with. One of the sheets has what's called CVE. CVEs are common vulnerabilities and exposures, which basically means these devices are run-off software and they could be hacked and everything. But Arista has a track record that's far better than the other 2 companies over the last 5 years that shows they haven't been as susceptible to those vulnerabilities. So they're on top of things, they're good, we've got a good relationship with the people who are looking to sell it to us, and yeah, and one thing about it, the lead times on all these devices are years, like a year out for the brand new stuff. So one of the things you're going to see is the Arista is actually 3 different devices we're going to get instead of 1. One of those is going to be used. We can get it off that market, but Arista is going to support it with the idea that we are going to purchase the other 2 when they come in. And we always like to have multiple devices so that one can't be a point of failure back in the bunker. You know, if you have one device and it just died, then you're going to be scrambling around. You're not going to have the thing to do it. So what we're planning to do will be to get the one in probably even before Christmas. I was talking to the guy today about it, and he can get it in pretty quick and use the equipment that we have also until we can get the other 2 in place. And the last picture that you see on here is how we want the network to look, where internet comes from the top, goes to those 2 devices, and spreads out to the fiber to the home devices and other CMTS while it's in play, and our direct fiber customers. So, any questions? I'd rather answer questions than I have to try to figure out what someone needs to know about.
So this 143,000 is to cover all 3
Yes.
routers?
Yes.
Correct, yeah. We're getting 1 immediately, and
Right.
the other 2 will be delivered when they're available.
Correct.
It looks like it's a huge difference in the price, but I mean, you're comfortable with this Arista, and,
Yes.
and you feel like that's
Yeah,
gonna
we
hold up?
are, if it makes you feel more comfortable too, I was talking to some of the places around, I think that Bardstown started to use Aristas, Barberville, they use some. I was just told today that Russellville's getting into Arista, so yeah, they're really, we're not alone in this, you know, they're needing to keep up their end, because there's a lot of munis that would be mad if there wasn't good quality equipment too, so.
What's the, who started Arista? Wasn't there a tie with some of the other?
Yeah, some guys that actually worked at Cisco didn't like the model in which Cisco was starting to come to, because Cisco is kind of like you're hearing about a lot of different devices in cars, where you buy a piece of hardware and they don't turn it all on. They basically say, okay, if you wanted to do this, you got to get a license for that. And so we've even got some back in the back that are capable of 30 gig, but to get the license going for it, you would have to pay an astronomical amount, because that's what Cisco wants, just to make the hardware you already bought work like it's capable of working. And these guys didn't like that, so they branched out and they started their own company. I'm not sure how long ago it was after that they really took hold, but it works a whole very similar to Cisco, even to the point where they Cisco tried to shut them down, but they were unable to. They went before court and basically decided, no, it's not the same product. So, but it is so similar that it's not as hard of a learning curve for us even to put it in play. So yeah, we feel very comfortable about what we're seeing with them. To give you a little perspective of how much more powerful they are than what we have right now, we have 2 routers back there that pull in 10 gig pipes, or 10 gig connections, and they can spit it out in a 10 gig connection, and they have an extra one on board. Well, each one of these Arista devices has 8 100 gig ports on it, and it's 48 25 gig ports on it. So, and this device can pass basically what's in the Library of Congress every 2 minutes. You know, that's how much bandwidth can go through here. So they're very capable. They have much more powerful devices for other people, but that's sort of just the level we're at right now. I expect probably the way exponentially we're growing, 4K TVs, 8K TVs, even all that kind of stuff. In 5 years, we'll be pushing probably 80 gigs. Just if I had my guess, that's where I would say we would get.
Okay, is any other questions for Daniel?
I would just like to add that, you know, credit to Daniel and Josh for the work that they've done on this. And they did their homework and research and really looked to get us a good deal, a good price. Because when we first started looking at this, all of us were like, wow, this is crazy expensive. But
Yeah.
and this, we knew this was available when we, back in August and September when we were
Establish the budget.
developing the budget, that we would be able to go this route. So now this is just, the time to get them, keep moving forward.
Okay. And, this is no additional expense, this is what we've already
Right.
approved, and
Yep.
we've heard from our experts, so I'm satisfied. There's no other questions. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to approve the purchase of 3 routers and the associated equipment for $143,621.61, plus any additional shipping charges. So
Motion.
we have a motion by Witcher.
Second.
We have a second by Jones. Is there any other question? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Okay, that motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. Number 4, we'll look at ratifying the action of the programming committee.
Yeah, during the month, we had cable programming committee took some action, and it needs to be ratified by the board, and I'll turn it over to Eddie to explain that.
So the Channel 9 weather product that we offer, EPB weather, I think you'll watch that. The people that supply that, it's this MediaLogic, and they offer the weather play product that gives us the ability to throw that out on Channel 9. And basically, it's for people who don't have anything but the economy tier. That's the only type of weather channel they've got, because the weather channel itself is in the next tier up. And this is just an extension of the renewal of the agreement for 2 years, and it's going up $10 a month. So it works out to about 9 cents a sub, 8 cents a sub as far as an increase. So
And that's per month.
per month.
Yeah. And this what channel? This is
Channel
our Channel 9.
A lot of places just keep this on, put instrumental music behind it. A lot of doctor's offices keep it on, just as waiting room type stuff. So.
It's just kind of like continual scroll, some information.
Goes through about 7 different screens and shows you, radar, forecast, and
Yeah.
5-day ticker at the bottom.
Does this have a pocket for
Ads.
ads?
Yep.
So is that going to be any kind of revenue generating for us to be able to put
We've
that back
had
on? Or is that
some
already-
interest in that before, so yeah, that will fall under the advertising department, but we can sell ads on that
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
And hopefully, there's not too much activity on that channel tonight. So.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any other questions for Eddie on that? I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, if not, at this time I'll entertain a motion to approve the actions of the Cable Television Programming Committee as reported.
So moved.
They have a motion by Stevens,
Second.
have a second by Jones. If there's no other discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. That motion passes. Number 5 is the financial review. I think that's something maybe a little new, but you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so one of the things that I think is just important it seems for a while we hadn't really been discussing the financials in the board meeting, and I think it's good just to do a high-level review, not to get into a whole lot of detail, but have an opportunity to see how we performed each month and just ask some basic questions if they're there. So Melanie's going to kick it off with a quick overview of the financials, and then we can tailor it as needed. If there's things that you want to see or don't want to see, but it's always been included. I think the thing to point out, and all of you know, it's always been included in the board packet. You've always seen the financials every month, but we've never really touched on it in the board meeting. And it's not meant to be a long financial discussion like the audit discussion was last month, but really just hit the high points. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mel.
Okay. Yeah, so like you said, we're just going to do a very high-level summary tonight. So in your packet, you do have, this is probably the first or second sheet mine's in black and white, but,
Yeah, this-
so this is the one that we'll actually go over tonight. It's just a summary of all the financial information that's in your packet. Like you said, I know you all get those each month, but just so you'll know, there is a financial narrative that goes with that. So each of those is going to give you a summary before the actual sheet with the financial information. You're going to get a breakdown of each department as far as electric, cable, and internet. You're going to see write-offs in there. There's a cash report. There's statistics on kilowatt-hour sales, on sub-counts. So there's a lot more in that packet than what we're going to go over tonight. And as Dave said, I would love to be able to tailor what we talk about here in the meeting to what you all want to see. And I know some of us have kind of, or I've talked to a couple of you before. So whatever, that you all decide you want to see, just let me know. So with that being said, on that summary sheet, the first part there just shows the electric by itself. And it is going to give you a comparison of the current month, which of course we're a little behind, but is October, and looking at that compared to October of last year. And then you're going to see where we are year to date, so for the first 4 months of this fiscal year, as compared to the budgeted where we should be this year. So that's what you all would have approved back before July, so I guess in May or June's board meeting for our projections, I guess you could say. And then you're also looking at the year-to-date for last October. So that's the columns, that's the information that we're looking at.
So I think one thing to point out, and my understanding is that in the total operating revenue, that includes the fuel cost adjustment.
Yes.
So that's why you see the big difference between the year-to-date 22 and the budgeted, because when we did the budget, the fuel cost adjustment that we used was more in the 2 to 2.5 cent range, and of course it's been as high as 4 cents per kilowatt hour. So you'll see that there's an increase in the revenue, but also basically a corresponding increase in the purchase power cost as well, because that fuel cost adjustment is really a pass-through. So
Right. Yes, that's good to point out. So, yeah, so that revenue less power cost line there, like you said, the year-to-date versus the budgeted year-to-date is
that's what should be
basically
similar.
flat.
Yeah.
Yes. So for this month, of course, we had a profit of $33,796. So that's what we want to see. Last year it was a negative for that month, but we did have some pretty unique costs last year in several months, which also caused the difference in this year's year-to-date from last year's year-to-date. And again, we had about $250,000 worth of cost last year that we didn't expect. So if that were taken out, last year and this year are going to be very comparable. So overall, we're short of our budgeted amount by about $40,000, which in the whole scheme of things is very minimal. So we feel pretty good about this year so far. With the broadband, again, this is going to include cable and internet. So that you're going to see as one group going forward as far as the summary sheet. So the same thing there, you've got this month versus this month last year, basically the same. The year-to-date for this year is a little under budget. We did have some reallocation of labor costs, which caused a small difference there. And then as compared to last year, of course, we're down quite a bit. As you all know, we did see some loss in subs there for a little while post-COVID, where we had people, especially with internet, that needed the internet service during that time, and then they've dropped it because now everybody's gone back to school and back to work. So we did see some slight revenue change there. But we put a rate increase in place October 1. So that has helped there with the revenue, and that basically shows you why there's not a big difference in the revenues there year over year. So the bottom line there, of course, is a summation of everything. And we're up about $170,000 from last year, but short about $100,000 on our budget. Of course, that cable increase is going to start eating away at that. And then just a note, there is about $70,000 of expense that hit in August, which is in your year-to-date, that was then removed in November. Again, one of those costs that we didn't expect that would have been in the previous year, but we didn't get billed for it until this year. And then they changed their mind and said, no, you don't owe that. So in November, that will come back out. So that makes our overall difference just about $30,000. So basically right now we're hitting all of our targets and where we need to be. And if you all ever have any questions about any of the other information that's in those packets, feel free to let me know.
Okay. Is there any other discussion or questions for Melanie?
Thanks, Melanie.
Yeah, okay, so, looks good. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the financial review as reported.
Motion.
Have a motion by Witcher,
Second.
second by Stevens. Any other questions or discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Motion passes. Number 6 is the superintendent's report. So I went to Dave.
All right, so first one is the fuel cost adjustment for December. It's going to be 2.656 cents per kilowatt hour, and that's down from 2.9 cents in November, which has been we've seen a favorable trend for generally in the fuel cost adjustment. The other good news I would say is that it looks like it's going to hold pretty steady for the next several months at somewhere around between that 2.6 cents, 2.7 cents. So hopefully the crisis is somewhat behind us where we saw the major increase. It's still, these fuel costs are still higher than what they were the 3-year rolling average. They're probably 41, I think it says 41% higher than what the 3-year average was, but they were artificially low as well in the COVID, when COVID first hit. The fuel cost adjustment was really low, and that's in the 3-year average as well. So, but for the most part, the fuel cost is going to stay pretty steady over the next several months. Now when it comes, so that's the fuel costs. When it comes to the outages, that's somewhat of a different story. When I first last year when I first got here, we had really always seemed to have always good news with the outages, and over the last several months, it's been continuing to. We've seen a pretty decent uptick in outages, and a lot of it really is related to animals and trees. And we, again, back I think starting in June or July, we started the cycle trimming. Well, that's a 4 or 5 year cycle to hit all of the circuits, and so we're not going to see really major impacts and results for maybe another year yet, but we will eventually see that take over. What happens is as the trees continue to grow into the lines, it creates pathways for squirrels and even birds just to be part of our distribution system, which isn't good. And of course, the trees are closer, and those are causing momentary outages when it's enough of a contact to cause a short to ground. So you'll see we had 31 outages in October, and 17 of those were animals. And that's the bulk of it. we had 5 that were unknown, which typically that's going to be a tree hitting the line or an animal that we didn't find. And then we had 5 equipment outages, so we got the detail of that there. The other thing that we are continuing to do is put in insulated jumpers for like transformers and for lightning arresters. Because the jumper, if it's not insulated, is a easy place for an animal to contact the wire and then contact something that's grounded. So when you use insulated jumpers, it provides protection from that happening. And then squirrel guards go on like the insulator of a transformer and just create more of a barrier for them to not be able to short a path to ground, which most squirrels can really only do that once. They won't do it again, but there seems to be a lot of them out
That
there.
one squirrel.
So the other one that we've had, we see a fair number of bird outages as well, where they're contacting, sometimes when they go to take off, the wings, they're contacting 2 different phases, or they're contacting ground in a phase. So it's a variety, and the birds are tougher. That's going to be a tougher one, but anyway. We'll hopefully be getting this under control. I think the cycle trimming is really a key for good service for any electric utility. You really have to have a cycle trimming program. And there was several years ago we had one, and then I think we got away from it, where we were just doing spot trimming, which is okay. You're taking care of the problems that are out there, but in the meantime, everything else is growing in, and eventually it's just taking over. So we'll, I don't know if there's any questions on
On the tree trimming, have you heard much from the public on that? I mean, any concerns or anything?
Not
Or
really.
just run right along, or?
We try to reach out when we're in the area, let
Yeah.
them know what we're doing and why, and that sort of thing. A lot of times what you'll find is someone that has a tree in their yard that we're trimming doesn't necessarily want it trimmed. They want it taken out. And if it makes sense for us to do it, we'll do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, for the most part, people understand that it's necessary.
Yeah.
In a city like this, where the lot lines are tight, and the roads are tight to the houses and everything like that, it gets to be a challenge, because there's just not room to have the power line nice and clean, and then a tree planted 50 feet away. It just doesn't work, because 50 feet away is the house. So, but people are pretty understanding for the most part. So, any other questions?
Anything else today? If not, we'll move on to number 7, new business, old business.
Yeah, and we just have the items for the next meeting. Next December's meeting will be fairly busy, and of course that's going to be on Tuesday, December 20th, which is the 3rd Tuesday of the month instead of the 4th. But we'll be talking about the annual write-offs or biannual write-offs, and then we'll have the proposed payroll budget for calendar year 2023. So that's pretty much it for new and old business. Anything else that you can think of?
Can you get us maybe some numbers on that flex spending increase? Or
Yeah,
for next meeting?
over the next couple weeks here, we'll get some preliminary numbers out to the board to review, and it won't be, we'll be looking at all that ahead of time, so you'll be well informed of what we'll
Okay.
be asking for ahead of the board meeting, so.
Okay. All right.
What about an update on the charging stations? Anything happening?
They're on order. They're scheduled to arrive sometime in January, and that might be something I can put on the agenda for next month.
I've had some people
for
ask
an
about
update.
it.
Yeah. The lead time, so we had initially proposed it, I think, in March or April, and then we postponed it again until June or July, and in that time, the lead time increased on these because of, all these programs were coming out. So the charging station should be arriving sometime in January, so, yeah. And you can see, every car ad you see on TV right now is for an electric vehicle, so. Ready or not, here they come, I guess, I don't know, we'll see. Most of the charging will take place at the customer's home,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
That's all I got.
Okay. And I want to thank Daniel and Eddie and Melanie for coming in and giving us this information. We appreciate y'all doing that. So if there's nothing else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Witcher,
Second.
second by Jones. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say no. Okay, meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.